Most people think that setting up an RESP is as easy as opening an account, picking some investments, and collecting the free government grants. Sounds good, right? But here's the thing. When it's time to actually use that money, or pass it on, the way you set it up can make a massive difference in taxes, flexibility, and even future estate plans. Right now, as kids head back to school, it's the perfect time to rethink how you're funding their education and why just knowing the basics isn't necessarily enough. Because a smart RESP strategy doesn't just help pay for tuition, it protects your wealth, your family's plans, and their future success. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a smarter RESP approach for parents and grandparents that goes way beyond simple grant matching, so you can avoid the common mistakes, maximize the benefits, and make sure your money works harder for the next generation. So let's get into it. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Jacqueline Ozdemir, a financial advisor with the Ferguson Financial Planning Team at CI Asante Wealth Management. Around here, we focus on making complex financial strategies feel simple, human, and actually doable. I work with clients who want to grow their wealth in smarter ways, avoid unnecessary taxes, and make sure what they've built lasts for the people they love. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about a less obvious but hugely important way to protect and grow your wealth. If you find this video helpful, please be sure to hit like and leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a future video. All right, let's get into it. Let's start by tackling the elephant in the room: scholarship plans, also known as a group RESP. These plans often are pitched to new parents at the hospital or through the mail. They might promise simplicity, predictable returns, and a handy solution to your education savings. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. Actually, there are several catches. High fees are a biggie. Every account has fees, but scholarship plans tend to pile on extra charges that eat away at some of your returns. Plus, you'll face penalties if you skip or reduce contributions. And life does happen. Sometimes budgets get tight, and it's tough to keep up with the set schedule. Scholarship plans also aren't flexible that way. They rely on everyone in the pool doing their part and following the same pattern. You also have fewer investment choices, which means returns aren't always that impressive. Even if the market is having a solid year, group RESPs might still lean into conservative holdings that produce meager gains. On top of that, these plans can limit the kinds of schools and programs that qualify for withdrawals. So imagine your child wanting to go to an out-of-province school or a more specialized program that doesn't fit the plan's criteria. Long story short, scholarship plans sound convenient, but they come with some strings attached. If you want more control, potentially better returns, and fewer headaches, there are other RESP setups that often make more sense. Now, let's talk about family RESPs, which are basically like the VIP version of an education savings account. A parent can open this type of account even if they just have one child, and a grandparent can do the same for their grandchildren or grandchild. This type of plan allows you to add future kids or grandkids later, and if there are no future kids or grandkids to add, that's okay too. You can just have one child tied to the plan despite it being a family RESP. The real beauty though is in the way the money can be shared. If you have multiple beneficiaries, say two siblings who go to different schools at slightly different times, you can pull from the same pot and pay out each of their educational costs in whatever proportion fits their needs. You might have one child who plans to do a shorter college diploma and another pursuing a longer degree program. With a family plan, the leftover funds in the account can be directed to whichever child is still in school, maximizing the use of the grants and the growth. Family plans are also simpler to manage. Instead of juggling multiple individual accounts, you've got one consolidated place to track your contributions, grants, and investment performance. And yes, you still get the government grants for each child. That means you're not giving up any freebies by pooling the funds together. So, in short, family RESPs offer flexibility, convenience, and the potential for better overall use of savings. It definitely simplifies the process while creating a safeguard in case one child doesn't end up needing all the money that has been earmarked for them. Let's move on to the fun part, your investment strategy. Imagine your child is still in diapers, babbling away happily. University, college, or trades trading might be 18 years or more away, which is a long time in terms of investing. Generally, the further away the goal, the more aggressive you can be. Why? Because stocks over the long term tend to deliver higher returns than a conservative fund or bonds. If the market dips next year, you had a decade or more to recover. And if you're making regular contributions, you'll be buying more shares at lower prices along the way. As your child grows, especially when high school creeps up, it's wise to start shifting away from the aggressive holdings. Stocks offer strong gains, but they're also more volatile. If your child is 16 or 17, you don't want a stock market's crash to gut their education fund right before tuition payments are due. That's where more of a balanced mix or even a more conservative approach can protect what you've built up. And this shift doesn't have to be drastic. It can be a gradual rebalancing, moving away from mostly equities to a blend of equities, bonds, and perhaps some cash equivalents in the final couple of years before they start attending post-secondary education. The key is to ensure that when you need the money, it's there and not exposed to a sudden market tumble. That way, you'll also have a smoother ride from start to finish. Next up is one of the biggest pieces that people overlook, and it's how to withdraw from an RESP in the most tax-smart way. When you take money out, part of it is considered your original contributions, called PSE or post-secondary education withdrawals, and the other part is EAP or education assistant payment. The EAP includes the growth on your contributions as well as the government grants inside the plan. The PSE portion is always tax-free. It's your own money going back into your pocket or your child's pocket, so there's no fuss there. EAP portion, though, is taxable in the hands of the student. So the good news, students usually have little to no income, so their tax rate tends to be a lot smaller and lower. In many cases, they can earn enough through part-time work plus EAP withdrawals and still be short of the typical tax thresholds. But here's where families tend to get tripped up. If you don't plan properly, you might end up with leftover EAP amounts after your child has finished school. And this can trigger a few headaches, from having to return government grants to facing a hefty penalty for withdrawing the accumulated income. It's something like 20% plus regular income taxes, and that can sting a bit. To avoid this trap, make sure you're draining the EAP portion first while your child is still a student and in a low tax bracket. Keep tabs on the year-to-year funding needs, estimate tuition plus living costs, and use the grants and growth component while you can. A little planning here can save you a lot of trouble later. Now, let's talk about grandparents, because many love the idea of helping their grandkids go to college or start an apprenticeship program. They can open their own RESP or just gift money to the child's parents so that the parents can contribute to an RESP. Either way, it's all allowed. There's no rule limiting a child to only one RESP. They can have multiple accounts, like one set up by a parent and another by grandparents. But which route is better? If grandparents want full control over the funds and the investment choices, opening a separate RESP might make sense. Some folks like to see the actual performance statements themselves rather than relying on secondhand updates. But if you'd prefer to let your child handle the details, you could simply give funds to the existing family RESP. You won't necessarily have a direct say in how things are invested, but you also won't have the burden of account management. Keep in mind that all contributions to a child's RSP count towards the same lifetime maximum of $50,000 per beneficiary, and the same annual grant limits apply. That's another reason for families to stay in sync. If grandparents unknowingly dump a large sum all at once, it can affect how much in grants your grandchild can actually collect that year. So being on the same page is key to ensure you don't overshoot any of these limits. Finally, we need to cover one more piece of the puzzle: making sure your RESP stays intact if the main account holder passes away. This is where Successor subscribers come in. Some financial institutions let spouses or partners open a joint RESP, which is a huge plus. But if that's not an option, or even if it is, it's wise to appoint a successor who take over the account should something happen to the original subscriber, who is usually the parent or grandparent. So why does this matter? Because if the subscriber dies, the RESP can get a little messy. The estate might have to deal with it, the grants might get clawed back, or the plan could even be forced to close. That leaves the beneficiaries, the children, in a tough spot and can undo years of careful saving. By naming a successor subscriber, you keep the plan going seamlessly. For grandparents, this is really important. If you're in your 70s or 80s and you open an RESP for a newborn grandchild, there's a chance you might not be around when they hit college age. Having a successor lined up avoids uncertainty, potential estate fees, and the hassle of sorting everything out in court. It's better to get that sorted now rather than leave it for your grieving family to figure out. All told, this ensures the RESP can continue to grow and eventually fulfill its purpose, which is funding post-secondary goals and dreams without a glitch. So, how do you put all of this together? Start by steering clear of scholarship plans, which often leave you with very limited investment options and expensive fees. Instead, open an RESP that puts you in the driver's seat. For families with more than one child or grandparents looking to help multiple grandkids, a family plan is usually the way to go. If you're a single beneficiary household, a straightforward individual RESP also works, but the family version offers extra flexibility if you might add future kids or shift surplus funds between siblings. As for how to invest, consider being more aggressive when the child is young because time is on your side. Then gradually dial things down towards more stable holdings as that first day of post-secondary school gets closer. Keep in mind that the right allocation today might not be the right one 5 years down the line, so do those routine checkups. Also remember that not all withdrawals are taxed equally. Contributions come out tax-free, while the government grants and investment growth get taxed in the student's name. That's usually a good thing though, given how low their income is likely to be. And just plan carefully so you don't end up with leftover EAP that could trigger penalties later. And finally, grandparents have the option of opening their own account or funding the parent's existing plan. And don't forget to name a successor subscriber if you want the plan to last beyond your lifetime. Put this all together and you'll have a more powerful RESP strategy than most people even know is possible. All right, let's bring it back to where we started. A smart RESP isn't just about grabbing a grant and hoping for the best. It's about creating flexibility, taking control of your investment path, planning tax-smart withdrawals, and making sure the account survives life's curveballs. If you set things up right, you're setting yourself and your family up for a smoother journey ahead. Because honestly, it's not just about paying tuition. It's about protecting the wealth you've worked hard to build and making sure it does what you intended, which is helping the next generation succeed without unnecessary taxes, penalties, or complications. Structure it well now, and you're giving your family a head start that money alone cannot buy. Setting up your RESP with the right structure isn't just smart, it's a small move today that your future self and your kids will thank you for big time. If you're wondering what RESP setup makes the most sense for your family or how to tweak what you already have, drop your question in the comments. And if you'd like to sit down and talk about how these strategies can fit your personal situation, there's a link in the description to book a call with me. I'd love to help you make sure your plan is working as hard as you are. And if you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe and tap that little notification bell so you don't miss more ways to make your money smarter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.